All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is daily vlog number 283, and today I'm going to be doing what may be my final Pokemon TCG Geek and Sundry show review, because hot damn, did the views die on that show. If first things first, there will be some spoilers in this. I'm going to talk about the stuff that they do in the episode. So obviously, there's going to be some spoilers involved. I'll do my best to leave a little bit of mystery for you. And to be perfectly honest, most of the things I'm talking about today have nothing to do with the actual content of the game, but it's more the issues I have with the production itself, which is one of the reasons why I think it's just not doing very well views-wise. So, anyway, I have reviewed the other two episodes. The first one had Terry Crews, and I mentioned that the format itself was not really great. It was hard to follow, and the host just seemed kind of lifeless. We get to the second episode. The host started getting into their groove, but the show itself still just wasn't really that compelling, and with the guest having no idea how to play the game, it was kind of an awkward situation. Another thing that I've mentioned in both of these is this is a 23-minute ad for the Pokemon trading card game. So there are certain things that they're required to do because it helps sell Pokemon TCG cards. Things like, this is something I've hated in every single episode. I don't understand why they do it outside of a mistaken idea that this is somehow a version of cross-promotion. But at the beginning of every episode, after they introduce the guest, they go, you know what my favorite thing about the Pokemon TCG is opening card packs. And then they go and open like 4 or 5 card packs. I've never been able to tell exactly how many because they don't actually open them. They will very, very quickly, like a couple seconds per image, show, or a couple seconds per clip, show them opening packs and then rifling through a few cards, not long enough for you to be able to see anything. And then they'll cut back to the host, who will go, yeah, if you want to see what we actually did, check us out on TikTok and Instagram, which isn't a great way to do this. Like, in all 3 of the episodes I have watched, I have never felt compelled to go to the Instagram or go to Geek and Sundry's TikTok just to watch them open card packs. It was kind of fun the first time because Terry Crews obviously understands something about trading card games. I don't know, I don't remember if he mentioned that it actually played the Pokemon trading card game or not. But one of the things that he mentions, and this is anyone that plays a trading card game, whether it's Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, you all know what he's talking about. He goes, oh man, I just love smelling them. You know, that new freshly opened booster pack smell. It sounds bonkers to anyone that has never opened a booster pack, but if you've opened a booster pack, you know exactly what he's talking about. It is the most intoxicating smell in the world. I can't explain it. It's just a thing. And that was the most positive interaction that I've had with them opening or pretending to open the cards. Because again, they sit there, it's like, you know what my favorite thing in the world is opening the cards. And we're not going to show you that unless you go somewhere else. It just seems like this blatantly, like painfully obvious ploy to go, please follow us other places, please, pretty please, we'll put something up there that you'll really like, please. and it just comes off as disingenuous. I would much rather, instead of them having this kind of rug pull, it's like, you know what I love doing? Opening Pokemon cards. Let's do it. Tiny little montage. Oops, we're not going to do it here. I would much rather at the end of it, when they're doing the plug and everything, go, by the way, follow us on Instagram to see special behind the scenes things, including watching us open up some of our favorite booster packs. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Boop, 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 butterfly in the... I don't know why I thought about that, but that was always how LeVar Burton ended it. He'd go, I'll see you next time. Anyway, I think that would have been a significantly more effective way to do it. And my only thought process as to why they do it the way that they do is, one, again, this is a 23-minute ad for the Pokemon TCG. That's not a bad thing. Again, I have a degree in marketing. I don't think ads are bad. I actually enjoy a lot of ads. Not like watching them because it's like, oh yeah. But I like creative ads and the things like that because, again, I know all the work that goes into creating an advertising program. I can't remember what the actual industry term is. But like an advertising push, like there's a lot of work that goes into it. A lot of research, a lot of art, and like it's a really, really creative process. So I enjoy that stuff. I'm assuming the reason that they mention it in the beginning is the longer your video is, the less chance people are going to make it to the end of the video. And either the Pokemon Company itself told them, listen, you need to have booster pack openings in the first blah blah of the episode, or somebody on the production side went, well, you know, if we leave it to the end or something like that, most people aren't going to see it. We're not going to get any engagement on that. So we have to put it in the front. And I just don't think that follows. Yes, more people will see it if you put it in the front. However, you have a significantly more likely chance of them following what's called the call to action. That's a really important part of sales, is what's called the call to action. And the call to action requests that the customer do something. Buy this product, come to our store, or in this case, go to Instagram, go to TikTok, and follow us there. So as much as, yes, more people will see it, I think significantly less people are going to actually follow through on the call to action when you're dealing with this rug pull kind of thing. Because people, at least in my case, kind of feel like, oh, that just feels cheap. Like, you tease me with like, hey, we're going to open booster packs. Just kidding. I think they would have a significantly higher implementation of people reacting positively to the call to action if they had put it at the end. And again, instead of teasing, oh, we're going to open some booster packs, never mind, go watch them somewhere else. If they just go, by the way, follow us on Instagram and TikTok to see special behind-the-scenes clips, including us opening up some booster packs. We'll see you next time. Something like that, I think, would be a significantly more effective method of, first of all, getting people to go to the other channels, and it would leave a little bit better taste in everyone's mouth after that. Because again, it just feels wrong. The episode as a whole, Abigail Breslin is on it. If you are somehow unaware who that is, Abigail Breslin got pretty big in the early 2000s as a child actress, and did some really, really good stuff. She had eventually transitioned into more grown-up roles. I hate saying adult roles because it makes it sound like, you know, she's doing, you know, Corn and stuff like that, and she's not. She's just playing adults now. And she had a bit of a run doing horror movies and horror comedy movies. She was in both the what was it called? They They were zombie movies that I can't remember the name of them right now. What is it? Why? Breslin. Zombieland, that's what it was called. So she was in both Zombieland movies, and she's done a bunch of other stuff as well. Apparently, she's also released some EPs, and she's going to be releasing a full album. She mentioned that on here. So that in and of itself, it was okay. Abigail was... The entire episode just felt awkward. Like... everyone seemed like they were kind of stepping on eggshells for the entire episode. Like there is maybe like 2 or 3 times where there was any laughter. And the first time that I noticed it was Abigail makes a pun, which I'm a big fan of. Love puns. She makes a pun, and she seems like she's kind of proud of herself for making the pun. And so she actually laughs. And from that point on, it started getting a little bit less awkward, but the awkwardness never really goes away. And I have many theories as to why. Obviously, putting her in a situation where she's playing a game that she's never played before is going to create, especially a game as complex as the Pokemon trading card game, that's going to create some issues. The set itself is very, 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 very busy. And so that can be kind of weird. And then something a lot of people don't realize. Part of being a Hollywood actor specifically, and doing films and things like that, is doing what's called the talk show circuit. Which is basically you go on the things like Late Night or The Tonight Show, or a bunch of news channels, whatever. You go and you do press for your movie. And one of the things that actors that have been doing this for a while kind of learn, and Abigail Breslin would definitely be one of those, is basically how to do that, because it's a weird thing to go on somewhere specifically to sell something, but you have to make it look like you're just sitting down for a friendly chat with a buddy of yours, and so there is a comfort in the idea of when you go somewhere having not really a script, but having a purpose to being there, and for this, it's kind of an interview show. It's kind of an ad to sell the Pokemon to TCG, and it's kind of sitting down and playing a card game with a stranger. And so because of that, it can make anyone a little bit awkward, because you don't have that thing to fall back on of, oh, well, let me tell you about my new movie coming to theaters November 3rd. Like, that's something that you just kind of get used to. And if you watch Abigail Breslin in interviews, which I'm going to be honest, I have not seen her in an interview in a while. So it's possible that this is just kind of how she is. There are some people that just don't interview particularly well, and they come off as very awkward. People like that generally are not asked to do press tours. But I don't remember Abigail Breslin being someone like that. So her being so kind of awkward and almost shy in this felt weird. So that's one reason why it might have felt awkward from her side. It's just the fact that she's not just been put into a situation she hasn't been in before. She's put into a nebulous situation where she's expected to play a card game somewhat adequately well. She's expected to answer personal questions about herself, and then she's also there to sell a product. Whether or not she in particular was given any prep work of, oh, by the way, hold the cards this way so that the camera will catch the logo, or things like that, which again is extremely common for actors in general. Product placements and stuff like that, you will be told exactly, especially if you've ever done any kind of commercial work. I don't know if Abigail Breslin has ever done commercials, but even if you're doing TV shows or movies, product placement is a regular enough thing that most actors will understand. Oh, I need to hold it this way. I need to do something this way because it gets the logo in front of the camera. So I don't know if they would have prepped her in any way for that, or just left all of the selling aspect to the host. I think it's Allison, right? I'm sorry. This is not like I don't care about them. I literally have a problem remembering names. Writer, director, producers, editor. There it is. Host. Allison. There we go. I have forgotten her name every single one of these reviews. It's upsetting how often I forget this wonderful girl's name. Ugh. I hate my brain. So, so those are some things that might have made Abigail feel a little bit more awkward. However, this is another thing where, as unfair as it may seem, a lot of getting a guest comfortable lies on the shoulders of the host. And really, really good hosts. Like, if you look back to someone like Johnny Carson was probably one of the greatest television hosts of all time. He was so brilliant and just so charmingly funny that he could get anyone to kind of relax and start enjoying themselves. And that is engaging to television. There are a lot of hosts that are not very good at that. And there are a lot of people that never do any hosting work because that's just not a skill that they have. Or they never do any interview style hosting. So there's a lot of different hosting gigs. And interview style is a very particular one. And so a lot of getting the guest comfortable lies on the shoulders of the host. It's one of the reasons why finding the right host is such an important aspect of creating an interview style show. And I just don't think Allison, as of these 3 episodes, this is not a commentary on Allison as a person or anything like that, or her ability to act. But in this particular case, I really don't think she was up to the job of being able to get these 3 relatively well-known actors. Like Terry Crews, everybody knows Terry Crews. I can't remember the other kid's name because it's not in front of me, but he plays Ned on Spider-Man. Again, one of the top selling movies of all time. Belonging to one of the most popular franchises of all time. And then Abigail Breslin, who has been acting almost as long as I've been alive. Like, she is absolutely brilliant. So I just don't think Allison was up to the task of being able to kind of sit with these people, be very, very confident, but also be very, very welcoming and charming. It's not to say that she's not a charming person. However, every one of these felt awkward. And as each one went on, they got progressively more awkward to this one where it was just extremely awkward. And there's a number of different techniques that you can use to kind of break the tension. Jokes in general tend to work relatively well because laughing in and of itself, another thing that a lot of people don't realize, laughing is a group activity. A lot of people don't quite understand why stand-up comedy without an audience doesn't hit the same way. It's because laughing is a group activity. It's one of the reasons why they used to put laugh tracks on sitcoms and stuff like that. You are significantly more likely to laugh if you think other people are laughing. It is a social group activity. And laughing with someone creates a bond. It may not be the strongest bond ever, but it starts to create a relationship with perfect strangers. So cracking jokes and things like that can be very, very a very, very good way to release some tension, get rid of some of the awkwardness, and get people to relax. One of the more common ways to do that, self-deprecating humor tends to work really, really well, especially in instances where if the interviewer or the host is a relatively famous person, using some self-deprecating humor can humanize them and make them not look like this huge, I am a TV show host. They can just be, hey, I am just as awkward as you are. And on the flip side, if you are interviewing someone that is significantly more famous than you and one of those larger life peoples, using a little bit of self-deprecating humor can actually give them a chance to kind of reach across the divide and either do a little humor of their own, or they can kind of encourage you and go, no, you're amazing, you're wonderful. And that can allow them to create a little bit of a bond, because it allows them to kind of show a more caring side. So I generally tend to be a big believer in, if you can do it well, self-deprecating humor is a great way to get people to relax. If you do it poorly, it sounds like you're asking for compliments. So it's definitely not something that everyone can do. Another thing, and it's one of the reasons why all of my D&D show and all my tabletop RPG shows always start quote-unquote late. Before I go live for any show, I intentionally leave time for the players to interact with each other and to interact with me. Anyone that has ever been in one of my at one of my tables when I run something online, I always tell people we're going live at 9 p.m. The video call starts at 8:30. I always mention starts a half hour early. You are required to be there no later than 15 minutes early. And the reason for that is twofold. One, it gives me time to sort out any tech issues that'll show up, which always happens. Two, it gives them time to talk to everybody. And that is an unbelievably essential part of creating a close-knit group, is they need to be able to chit-chat and talk about things that's interesting to them. And because of that, I have very, very tightly knit tables. Every one of my tables, they are very, very close. And part of that is just because playing D&D makes you closer to people. But part of that is I intentionally give them time to chillax and talk and things. And it's a selfish thing for me too. I don't get a chance to talk to anyone outside of my D&D games. So I want to be able to talk to my friends as well. So now the problem with that, especially on something like this, is every second that you are there costs money. Costs a lot of money, because you have, like, to put on a show like this, knowing Zach, he probably does not have a massive crew. I mean, if you look at the if you actually look at the because they have a complete crew list there. You have director, writer, executive producers. You have producers. Then you have production designer, editor, camera ops. So they have 2 camera operators, first AC, BTS videographers. There's 2 more of those. Production assistant, audio engineer, a tech director, and then some HMU artists, art directors, table fabricator, table designer, graphic designer, construction foreman, prop maker. A lot of these people are not going to be on set. But I would guess, with the people that are listing here, they probably had half a dozen to a dozen people on set for any one of these episodes. Each one of those people is making more than minimum wage. And so every second that you are on the set doing something, you are spending money. So giving the host and the guest, half an hour to just kind of shoot the shit and get to know each other is expensive. In addition to that, Abigail Breslin is a working actor. It's very, very possible that her schedule might have been so tight as to go, hey, how long are we shooting for? Oh, we're going to shoot for an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it is. And she is only able to be there for that particular time because she has a lot of other things that she does, as do most working actors. So it's very, very possible they simply didn't have time. Like, it might have been, I'm not saying this is how it was. I'm saying it is possible that it might have been Allison was on set getting everything ready. Abigail comes in. She goes, hi, my name is Allison. Abigail goes, hi, I'm Abigail. They sit down, and then they hear a countdown. They hear, all right, rolling and action. Like, that might have been the entirety of the time that they had to get to know each other before they started playing the game. It happens. Like, that is 100% a thing that can happen, especially in LA where this is shot and everything. However, if that's what's happened, they're doing Allison a huge disservice by not giving her the ability to do something to get to know her guests, to create some sort of camaraderie between them. And it just came off as really, really, really awkward here. And it makes it very, very difficult to watch. So, like I said, there's a lot of different ways that they can deal with that awkward problem, but probably the biggest of which lies on Allison's shoulders. It's hard to teach someone how to be charming. And again, this is not me saying that Allison is not a charming individual or that there's something inherently, uncharming about her. That's not what I mean when I mean charming. I mean charming in the idea that you charm people. Not that you're physically attractive, not that you have a magnetic personality, but people that actually have the ability to charm someone, to make them feel special, to make them feel enamored for a little bit. It's a remarkably difficult skill to learn, and a lot of the people that are the best at it don't actually have any skill in it. It's natural talent. It's not that you can't learn to become charming. It's just very difficult. And there are certain personality types that just will never come off as that version of charming. And I'm not saying that Allison, I don't think she could be charming. I'm saying she's not in this instance. She seems very hesitant. She seems very unsure of herself a lot of the time. And that doesn't come off as charming. That comes off as awkward. Another thing that I just caught in this last one, because I literally just finished watching it right before I turned on the camera here. I've mentioned before, Allison has these questions that she asks the guests. And they're like blatantly obvious ad questions. I even wrote one down specifically so you guys could see what I'm talking about. So this is one of the questions, and one of the things that she's done in every single episode, though, as each one went on, she did it less and less, but we'll talk about why I think that was in a second here. This is one of the questions she asked. Pokemon evolve and grow over time just like people. Can you share a personal experience where you feel like you had a major evolution or growth in your life? And the thing that gets me is every time she, in the first episode, it was literally every time she asked a question. In this one, I think she only did it once, but she literally has a cue card in her hand. She has a little note card with the question written on it, and she reads it directly from the card. That, from a hosting perspective, is just bad hosting. There's really no other way to say it. If you do have specific things that you have to ask, there's a bunch of different ways that you can get around that. For a question like this, and I'm going to tell you guys right now, I've said this many, many times, I have severe memory issues. The medication that they put me on to save my life after a doctor put me on a different medication that should have killed me has side effects. And for me, it seems like one of the side effects is it destroyed my short-term memory completely. So the reason I am saying this is the question that she read off of that card is such a short question that even someone with brain damage like me can memorize it and ask the question. I will show you. I have it written down on my upper monitor here. So I'm going to read it a couple of times. Then I'm going to close the thing and I'm going to ask the question without having it there, just to show you guys what a simple process this is. And this is someone with brain damage. Allison is a host, and part of being just a host and an actor in general is you have to be able to memorize things. Like that's working in Hollywood, is being able to memorize things. So the fact that she was incapable of memorizing this one specifically, again, there's a lot of things that could have happened. It might have been she didn't get the questions until just before the camera started rolling. It might be that this is the first time she's ever read the question, where they just give her a stack of note cards and go, sometime during the episode, just pick up a note card and read the question. If that happened to her, shame on you, Geek and Sundry. That's a bad thing to do to your host. Don't do that. It's not okay. But even in an instance like that, because this is an edited show, let's just give you an example. So, question again. Pokemon evolve and grow over time just like people. Can you share a personal experience where you feel like you had a major evolution or growth in your life? Just like people. Let's see how much of this I can remember. And again, brain damage. Pokemon evolve and grow in their life just like people. Can you think of a time where you evolved or grew in your life? It was a really bad example. I'm going to read it again. Pokemon evolve and grow over time just like people. Can you share a personal experience where you feel like you had a major evolution or growth in your life? Can you share a personal experience where you feel like you had a major evolution or growth in your life? Can you share a personal experience? Can you share a personal experience where you feel like you had a major evolution? Pokemon evolve and grow over time just like people. Pokemon evolve and grow over time just like people. Pokemon evolve and grow over time just like people. So, Abigail, can you share a personal experience in your life where you feel like you had a major growth or evolution? Now, was that word for word? I switched a few things around. So can you share a personal experience where you feel like you had a major evolution or growth in your life? And I just put in your life earlier. But I think I got almost the entire thing in there. And that was what? 5 minutes? And again, brain damage. This is one of those things like when I was in high school, actually. And I was looking to go to college for acting, and I was starting to work with I was actually starting to work with community theaters, and I was lucky enough that some of the community theater groups that I worked with actually had working actors that would come and do shows with them just because they had time, or they liked the show, or they just liked the group. So I worked with professional actors. And one of the most insulting compliments we regularly got was we would have these like old ladies come in and they'd watch the show and they'd be like, "Oh, that was so wonderful." And then you always greet the audience afterwards and they go, "Oh, that was so wonderful. It's just so impressive how you guys could remember all those lines." And that's kind of like going into like a professional kitchen and going, "Oh, this is so wonderful. It's just so impressive that you're able to like put the food right on the grill. Like, that's amazing." It's like, real, if that's what you think is the hard part about our jobs, oh dear God, That is the bare minimum to be an actor, is you can memorize lines. It's part of the prereqs. It's not even a skill you develop as you grow as an actor. It's a skill you have to have before your first audition. You have to be able to learn how to memorize lines. It's just how it is. So reading these things off of cards, again, I gave Allison some slack at first because I'm like, well, she's up against this and it's a new format and everything. But seeing 3 episodes where she's continuing to do this, at that point I'm like, you know what? No longer a pass for this. This is basic host stuff. If you have particular questions you're required to ask, bare minimum, you need to get better at making it not look like you're reading them directly off a card. And that's the other thing about this. This is an edited show. It is not live. So even if she was just literally just pulling cards out of a stack of cards and going, hey, here's a question that I have to ask. And that's the first time she's seeing that question. Because it's an edited show, she can literally just sit there, read it once, do literally what I just did, and then tell cameras, all right, okay, are we rolling? All right. Pokemon evolve and grow Pokemon evolve and grow over time, just like humans. People. Let's try it again. Humans. All right. Pokemon evolve and grow over time, just like people. Abigail, can you give us a personal experience where you felt that you evolved or had a major growth in your life? Again, I switch words around every so often, but I got all the words in there. That's all it takes. And she just does it a few times. And again, Abigail, being an actor, would totally get the idea. Once more. Oh, back to one. Once more. Like, that's a completely normal thing. And Abigail has done both film work and television work. So she is extremely familiar with this is how it works. That's all it would have taken to go from Pokemon evolve and grow over time just like people. Can you share a personal experience where you feel like you had a major evolution or growth in your life? It always came off as awkward. Now, another thing that I realized, there are, like I said, I think I only caught her using a card once this time. But I did notice something interesting. When she was asking another question, because even when she doesn't use the cards, she uses that same kind of deadpan delivery that just feels wrong. I couldn't understand how she could be giving this very robotic delivery on questions that she was actually asking herself. And then I watched her ask this question, and so she's talking to, like, Abigail, sightline-wise, Abigail is here, and she kept doing this. I think she had cue cards off, just out of camera. And that explains why it was that she kept giving these really robotic ad reads, for lack of a better term, because she was actually reading it off of a cue card. Which, again, is bad. First things first, cue cards are an art form. And what I mean by that is something like Saturday Night Live is done entirely with cue cards. The entire script is copied onto these large boards, generally a few words or a phrase or two at a time, and then they have these actual cue card artists who their entire job is to know what's happening in the scene and know when to drop the card so that the next card is the correct card. It's not something that anyone in the world can do. It's not an incredibly difficult thing to learn, but it is something that you have to learn how to do, and it does take active participation. It's not a passive thing. So either they had a cue card or they, my guess is, again, knowing Zach and knowing his propensity for tech in general, I think they might have had a teleprompter for her that was just off camera so that she could look and read the question she was supposed to read without having to memorize it. Or they had a cue card. Again, I sincerely doubt they used cue cards because, again, I haven't spoken to Zach in years, so, and we were never close. I'll just put that out there. Zach and I were never like super buddy. We knew each other and we interacted somewhat. And that's how I know him, in a very professional manner. We were never buddies or anything like that. But my understanding of Zach and the stuff that he likes to do, he's a massive tech head. He's extremely innovative. That is probably one of the best things about Zach Eubank, is not so much that he understands tech, but he can look at a piece of tech and go, you know what, if we take that and we take this other thing over here, we can do this, which neither thing was designed to do. Like, he's just really, really good at that, and he can build things on crazy tiny budgets and will get absolutely everything he can out of the tiniest amount of stuff. So kudos to Zach, but I'm gonna guess there was a teleprompter just off camera that she was looking at when she was reading that question, because again, it just came off as too robotic for that to be something that came off the top of her head. And if that was what it was, you can't use a teleprompter from too far away. Because, again, eventually it'll get too small for you to be able to read. So depending on the size of your teleprompter, there might be an issue of being able to keep it readable. Whereas cue cards, you can make them really, really big. So normally, if you're using cue cards, what you will do is you will place the cue cards in such a way where on stage, sight lines are incredibly difficult to see. And what I mean by that is, right now, I'm talking to you because I'm talking to the camera. If I do this, you guys can tell that I'm not actually talking to you. Or if I look at, like, this is where my preview image is. If I look here, it's obvious to me, it's obvious to you guys I'm not actually talking to you. I'm talking to something else. I'm focusing on something else. Just by switching my... Hi, hello. That's all it takes for you to notice that I'm not using the right sight line. If I'm talking to someone over here, sight lines are a little bit more difficult to tell because it's no longer right at you. On stage, I could talk here, and the person I'm talking to is here, and no one would be able to figure out. Sight lines on stage are so incredibly simple and easy to fake. So one of the reasons why you do this thing called cheating out, where even if you're talking to someone right next to you, you will turn your body so that you are more open to the audience, and you will speak more downstage. Even if the person you're talking to is behind you, you will do everything you can to cheat out, so that the sound of your voice is going out into the audience instead of getting trapped in, all the incredibly heavy, dense curtains on the side of stage. Film is not quite that way, because film is much more intimate, much closer. It's much easier to be able to tell when you're not actually looking at the target that you're talking at, but you can still do a little bit of cheating, which again is what they do on Saturday Night Live. And so the way that they deal with cue cards is they will put the cue cards in a place where you can see them either while you're making eye contact with the object that you're supposed to be, or that it's so close to the object that people won't be able to realize that you're not actually talking to that person. But this was an obvious looking down like that. So it was nowhere near Abigail. It was way down here, which again, because of the massively elaborate set, it's possible there just wasn't a way to put a cue card or a teleprompter in line of sight. But again, that goes back to the idea of welcome to hosting. If you have particular things that you have to say in a very particular way, learn to memorize them. And this is an edited show. If it doesn't come out the right way, cut, back to one, do it again. Yes, it takes a little bit more time, but it gives you a significantly better product. So yeah, format is getting easier for me to understand. I now understand why it is that sometimes they take 2 cards and sometimes they take 1 cards. EX Pokemon in general, it says on the very, very bottom left corner of an EX Pokemon card, you get 2 prizes for knocking this Pokemon out. So Yeah, that's fine, but they never explain that. They never highlight that or anything. Like, it could have been as simple as, oh, and since you knocked out an EX Pokemon, you can take 2 prizes instead of 1. Like, that's all it would have taken for people to go, oh, that's why that's happening. But they never explain it. They never explain anything about this game, and it infuriates me. I've had to teach myself the Pokemon TCG just so I can watch this show. The final thing that I just don't think works very well, they use the phrase game on board. I did a very, very quick Google search. I have never heard anyone use the phrase game on board. It's an awkward phrase. It doesn't make sense from a linguistics standpoint. Like, it's a poorly put together sentence from a linguistic standpoint. From a rhythm standpoint and things like that, like game on board doesn't roll off the tongue very well. There's not only are there some hard consonants in there, but the vowel shapes do not naturally flow into each other. It's just a bad term. And what does it mean? In Magic, we call it lethal. And what that means is you have everything you need on your next turn to win the game. So we call that having lethal. Oh, you've got lethal. This, Allison, at the end of every episode, before the final turn happens, they go, well, I've got game on board. And then the entire back panel goes, or you've got game on board, or we've got game on board. It changes each time. But then the entire back wall does this kind of iris closing image. And then the lighting turns red, and you see this like exclamation point inside a triangle, meaning everything is very, very dangerous. And Abigail Breslin actually reacted. She goes, oh, that's ominous, or something like that. It's not fun. Instead of allowing the game to go and allowing the victory to be kind of a surprise, which is how it normally goes in most shows like this. That's not how it goes in most competitive tournaments. Like, if you're actually playing like Magic the Gathering, again, it's extremely common to go, oh, I've got lethal. But basically what you're saying is like, I'm about to win. And it's just not fun to get to near the end of it and then basically have them spoil the end. It's go, oh, game on board, which is a dumb phrase. It's just, it's so tacky. And then again, they change the entire set to make it seem like it's this incredible thing, when in all actuality, like, again, the first episode they did, they didn't even allow the game to finish playing. They just said, well, game on board, we can end it and say you won. The second one, they go game on board, and then they let the person win. And this one, they said game on board. And then, first of all, it wasn't game on board. With my understanding of how the game works, it 100% wasn't game on board, unless one of the players made a very specific move. So, spoiler alert about the end of this episode. The game on board was basically Allison had 2 prizes left, Abigail had 2 prizes left, and Allison had a Pokemon that just had a shit ton of attack power. So she could knock out any Pokemon that got in there in one blow. Or I think Allison had only 1 prize left. Something like... Anyway. So all it was going to take is a single knockout from Allison to be able to win. However, what Abigail did was she put out a different Pokemon that only had 10 hit points left and knocked out Allison's Pokemon, which actually brought Abigail to almost within winning condition. But because of how the decks were built and everything like that, Allison was able to just put out another Pokemon and instantly kill this one because, again, they only had 10 hit points, and the least amount of damage you can do is 10 hit points. Like, everything is done in intervals of 10. So it was set up for Abigail to lose because I don't know if she was coached to put that in intentionally, but she had a bunch of other Pokemon on her bench that I don't think could have been one-shot. And we have no idea what was in her hand. So depending on what was in her hand and things like that, she might have been able to do something a little bit different. I don't know, because they never really showed us the board that well. And another thing about the Pokemon TCG is so much of the Pokemon TCG is setup, and then everything is a one-shot. Like, there's only one Pokemon in the entirety of this 3-episode series that ever takes, or I think maybe 2 Pokemon, that ever takes damage that doesn't instantly knock them out. So in 3 games, only 2 Pokemon are not insta-knocked out, which is weird. That's not how it used to be. But it also means that the first, 2 or 3 turns are just setup, 60,000 damage in one hit. That's how it works. So, yeah. So overall, this is probably my least favorite episode of this. And when we look at the comments, we have... I have to go down to the comments. There we go. We have that Spooky Alley, who I think is Allison, the host. And then it's Dan Casey, Dan Casey is one of the executive producers. Both of them go, "Thanks for tuning in to the Stellar Crown Showdown, Pokemon Traders. Hope you all enjoy our battles and can't wait to bring more TCG content to you soon." And then Dan is a little bit more frank. "Thanks so much for watching, everyone. We hope to bring you even more Pokemon TCG goodness in the future. Who would you like to see join us in the showdown next?" As far as I can tell, there's no more episodes for this currently on the books. And I went and I looked at, and I stupidly closed the page. I looked at views. So again, Geek and Sundry, 2.33 million subscribers. The first Pokemon TCG Showdown, Terry Crews, 102,000 views, which is not great, but it could be worse. 100,000 views for something like this is kind of your lower minimum for going, okay, that worked. The next one with Jacob Batalon is his name. The next one is at 17,000 views. That's bad. Today's episode, which has only been up for 7 hours, so it's going to get more views. Today's episode, 2.9 thousand views. In the first 7 hours, if you can only, because the vast majority of your views will normally come in the first day or so that you're on there. And it's heavily weighted towards the first few hours that it's up, depending on when you upload it and when your audience is awake. Like if you're uploading at 3 in the morning and your audience, 3 in the morning in the US and your audience is mostly US based, you're probably not going to get a ton of views at 3 in the morning. But as soon as they start waking up, you will see a huge boost in views. So with this only getting 3,000 views or less than 3,000 views in 7 hours, this has not been successful in any way, shape, or form. Now, if you look at it, they do have a link to the new expansion, but it's not like a custom link as far as I can tell that would be able to be tracked or anything like that. The reason that's important is obviously the Pokemon Company paid them to do this. Again, it's a 23-minute ad for Pokemon. They better be getting paid for this. In order for the Pokemon Company to decide if this was a good investment or not, they need a way to be able to tell how much product this particular thing sold them. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to give an affiliate link or a coupon code or something that is trackable. Even just a link that is customized for the website or for the influencer that's using it can be useful in figuring out what your conversion rate is. And the particular link that they have here just links to the expansion overview, and it talks about like the featured cards, which every one of the featured cards was in one of the decks. Like the Lapras EX card was in Abigail's deck today. And then the Galvantula, Cinderace, and Terapagos were all in previous decks. So again, it's obvious that this is marketing. But you can't buy anything here. There's another button you can click that says Shop at Pokemon Center. And there you can buy things, but it's a completely separate site. So, yeah. From a marketing perspective, to me, this looks like a net loss for Pokemon TCG, because they're 100% not getting the views that would be expected of something like this, and there's no way to translate those views into measurable sales. Yes, they might notice that on days that the episodes go up, their sales somewhere go up. That's not technically trackable sales. Correlation does not imply causation, and in marketing, especially if it's something that you're using to figure out how much you're paying someone, you're not going to make you're not going to make that connection, because it means that you have to pay them more. So yeah, overall, this series still has a lot of promise. Again, Spell Slingers is probably one of the greatest things that Geek and Sundry did. But this ain't it, bud. It just ain't. Allison does not have the necessary skills to be a host in a format like this. It's just outright. Currently, she does not have those skills. Does that mean that she can't have the skills? No. Almost anyone can learn almost anything. And I think there's enough of a baseline talent for Allison that she could learn how to be a very good host. She's just not one right now. So that in and of itself, they either need to get a new host, or Allison really, really needs to step it up and fill the hosting position better, because right now she's just not. And again, this is not a commentary on Allison as a person. Allison is an actor. Even Allison is a host in general. Just for this particular format, version, style of hosting, she is not doing a good job. And whether that is because she didn't put the effort into it that she should have, or she was put into a situation where she wasn't able to put in the effort to give the best performance, we don't know. I can't tell you whose fault it was that Allison did not perform her hosting duties better. But I can say she was not a good host. In addition to that, the format needs to be tweaked. Like I said, I get that the set looks super, super flashy, but for the amount of money it would have cost to make that set, I think they were doing everything they could to, like, the game on board thing, I think was just meant to kind of justify the expense of building that incredibly elaborate set. And you just don't need it. I'm going to literally look up Spell Slingers. Because I want to remember Magic the Gathering Spell Slingers. Again, by far one of my favorite shows that they've ever done. 5 years ago. That's so fun. It went on for 5 seasons too. That's crazy. Now the seasons look like they were only like 6 episodes a piece. But I'm going to go down. The first one was 11 years ago. That is nonsense. So let's go to the first episode of Spellslingers so we have something to compare. Yeah, calm down. And I just want to see the set that they were playing on. Okay. So they had an equally elaborate set. However, yeah, I guess that's just, I wonder if they have cast. So for producers, director, I don't know who he is. Hosted by Sean Plott. Producers, Ryan Koppel, remember him. Production coordinator. I think they might have had less people working on... It's possible that they had less people working on Spellslingers than they did on this Pokemon TCG, and yet Spellslingers was just infinitely more fun to watch. The set dressing for Spellslingers is absolutely on brand. If you're not familiar with the term set dressing, like the set is the physical things there. It's the walls, it's the furniture, it's all the stuff that the actors are going to interact with. Set dressing is all the other nonsense on set. Things like little decorative pillows on couches, or little knickknacks on mantelpieces, or artwork hung on the fake walls. That's all what's called set dressing. Set dressing, like set dresser, is a real job. It's an absolutely essential part of a lot of different formats. And the thing about set dressing is it takes a set and changes it from a set to an actual place that you can exist in. So the set dressing on Spellslingers was amazing and wonderful. But then they had things like the Wheel of Fate, which is basically just a wheel with the different color combinations that people would spin to be able to pick their deck. And it was literally just a wooden box with a cheaply made like wheel that you could spin, and it had nails in it to be the thing that stopped the thing. Like, it was the cheapest thing I'd ever seen, and everybody loved it. The rest of the set looks immaculate, and the Wheel of Fate just looks like cheap shit. And it was by far the most fun thing, and they had a light that was pointed directly at it, so when Day 9 would talk about the Wheel of Fate, they'd have a spotlight on it. It was amazing. So I'm going to go back to a spot where I can actually see the set. Yeah. The set itself, again, set dressing is nice. But it's just so over the top. Like, it feels weird to have these two people that seem so out of place in this set. Like, the set itself looks like something you would see in an anime where the Pokemon TCG is not just a trading card game. People like base their entire lives on it, and they're professional TCG players, and there would be a set like this where an official sanctioned tournament would be, and you would come in outfits, and you do the whole turn it around and I choose you, Lapras. Like, that's what it looks like they should be in. Like, they should all be in like Pokemon clothes direct from one of the animes, and they're not. Like, Abigail's in a jumper or a sweater. Looks very, very comfortable. And Allison, to be honest, I'm not sure what I would call what she's wearing, but it looks more formal than what Abigail is wearing. But neither of them look like they're in the Pokemon anime or video games in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, I really don't think they need that elaborate a set. Like, I mean, if they already have it built, let's just use it, but they don't need the screen there doing all this weird shit. They definitely don't need that stupid game on board. And they need to put a larger emphasis on explaining how the game works. Like, when they draw their cards and everything like that, they should show them, all right, we have your chosen Pokemon there. Explain why it is that it's always the chosen Pokemon that's your first active Pokemon. I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's the format here, like Commander, but for Pokemon, I have no idea. They've never explained that. Actually show them setting up the board. Deck goes here, that stuff. Like, let people actually understand what's going on. Yeah, they've gotten better with putting up the cards so you can see what's going on, but they don't do it all the time. And to be blunt, the Pokemon TCG, because of how it's set up, like Allison's first turn, like Abigail's first turn was like she put an energy down. I think she put a Pokemon down that she passed. And Allison's first turn was like 3 different trainer cards and shuffling her hand into her deck like 7 times. And it was nonsense just how much action was going on for a single turn that at the end, nothing happened. Like, there wasn't a single attack thrown for the first, like, 3 turns on either side. So it's all this crazy stuff going on and nothing actually happening. So I think the format needs to change to be easier for people to follow. And again, like I said, a different host or just Allison getting better at hosting would make a world of difference here. Seriously, I highly encourage you, go watch Spell Slingers. Just type Spell Slingers Geek and Sundry into Google. The first thing that'll come up is a playlist of the entire series. Watch a few episodes. They're generally like, I believe they're right around 20 minutes a piece. So lengthwise, they're almost identical to the Pokemon TCG show that they're doing now. It's very similar, but it's so much better to watch and so much more fun to watch than this Pokemon TCG. I hope they get a second try at this. I hope if anyone from the production is watching, Zach, hi Zach, if you're watching, I miss you. Or Dan or Allison. Again, absolutely nothing personal against you. This is just me critiquing you as a host, from one host to another host. You got some work to do. But if anyone from the Geek and Sundry staff is watching this, I hope you understand that this is not me shitting on your product. This is me hopefully giving you guys some ideas about how to turn this from a pretty mediocre product to something that's going to be really, really fun. And if you can't get Pokemon to sponsor it, like I'm almost guaranteeing it is sponsored here, that might make it even better for you. Because if you don't have a corporate overlord telling you what you have to do in every single episode, you might be able to take some more steps. But then again, buying new decks and stuff like that is extremely expensive. So it could just as easily be too expensive to run if you weren't getting free decks and stuff like that, or whatever deals you guys might have gotten. I don't know what's going on. I can just tell you that the end product is not great. It could be something amazing. Geek and Sundry, back when it was a different company, did it before, and they did it really, really well. And this just isn't. So, yeah, I'm a big believer in the idea of, like I mentioned, one of the things is get a new host. I'm a big believer in the idea of training people is significantly better for everyone involved than just hiring someone who's already trained. However, I don't know if you guys have someone on staff, first of all, that has the training experience to be able to actually train someone how to be a host. Second of all, has the hosting experience to actually know what to train. Or if you guys would have the ability. Again, Sean Plott was absolutely brilliant, but Sean Plott is the kind of person that is just naturally fun to watch. I actually have no idea if he actually understands why he's a good host or not. He may. He's been doing it for so long, he may have just learned through experience, or it may just be how he naturally reacts to these things. And that's the biggest pitfall that I tend to see with companies trying to train employees in general, is they will get someone that's good at the job and then expect them to be good at training the job. And that can happen. It's remarkably rare. Because to be truly good, like truly exceptional at something, requires a lot of focus. And being truly good and exceptional at training requires a lot of focus as well, and a lot of very specific skills. And focusing on two things simultaneously is incredibly difficult. So the likelihood is, if you find a superstar like in sales and then have him like coach new salesmen, first of all, the best results you get is he teaches them how to sell. He or she, they teach them how to sell how that particular salesperson sells, which isn't a good thing. Generally, the best salesmen are the best because they have a unique aspect to them that makes them unique, that makes them memorable, and that's not something that you can teach other people. That's why there's only one Billy Mays. That's how it works. And so, yeah, like I'd love to see Allison just get better at this, and it might just be that Allison just needs to do it more. But also, like, I don't know if you guys can afford to give Allison the amount of experience she would need to get to the point where she becomes a better host. At least in this particular show. Again, I don't know. There's so much about this. I don't know that. Yeah. I wanted to like this. I liked some of it. But overall, it was more disappointing. The series as a whole was more disappointing than anything else. And the thing that was most disappointing about it is a lot of the problems with the show aren't just fixable, they were predictable. And yet they weren't done. Things like reading questions off of cards to guests, that's not okay. And somebody in production should have been able to figure that out before cameras started rolling. Before they built the set, they should have been able to figure out, oh, we should probably, if we're going to have specific questions that we are required by our contract to read, certainly, we should probably give those questions to Allison a few days beforehand to give Allison enough time to learn them. And then if Allison showed up on set and didn't know the questions, they could have gone, okay, well, learn them now, and then we'll just shoot this a few times until you actually get the question out correctly. Like these are simple fixes that should have been done and weren't. And again, I think the reason that they weren't is that wasn't what they were focusing on, which is fine. But yeah, like it, you had an incredibly pretty set, and I hope you're very, very proud of that, because that is probably the only thing that people are going to remember about this. If this is the last episode, they're going to remember Terry Crews was on it, and that you guys had just an explosively expensive set. And that's it. Not that, oh, I want to go out and play the Pokemon TCG, because it didn't actually look fun to play. Especially since, for both Jacob and Abigail, they basically had to be told how to play it while they were playing. So it didn't look fun. It was very confusing. There was lots of words being thrown around. Like, nothing about this made me want to go pick up the Pokemon TCG. But it was a very pretty set. So if that was the goal, just to show off your amazing set building capabilities, you 100% pulled it off and should be very proud of yourself. However, if the goal was to entertain, it didn't work. If the goal was to get people hooked on the Pokemon TCG, it definitely didn't work. And if the goal was to get people to watch it, I think the numbers speak for themselves. Nobody watched it. So, yeah, that's going to be all for me today, guys. Like I said, go watch Spell Slingers. It's amazing. And if anyone from Geek and Sundry is watching this, go watch Spell Slingers. Figure out what they did that was so amazing, because it was really, really good. Call up Sean Plott. He has to at least be friendly with somebody at Geek and Sundry, call up Sean Plott and have him literally just have him come watch a taping and then get his feedback. Like, even if he can't train someone, because that may not be his skill set. I don't know Sean Plott, so I don't know if that's in his skill set or not. But just having him come out and watch a taping and then just give some feedback of these are the things I liked and these are the things that I didn't like would probably make this show a million times better. So, yeah. Anyway, it's all for me today. I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.